Go ahead and get started again. We are going to do two more things tonight. We are going to start by talking about assignment 6, and I posted information for assignment 6 after class last week, and we'll talk about what that is. It's an end of the term project, and we have always had that in this course. It is in your syllabus. And it can be a project that you are motivated to work on that really appeals to you. And my experience is the more you are invested in the project, the better the project will be. And we've had some really fantastic projects. You can work on the end of the term project by yourself if you prefer to do that. But a huge proportion of the time, students have worked with other students. They've worked in pairs or a group of 3, whatever you want to do. But I thought what would be useful for tonight is to take you through some previous examples of past projects. So if you look in the assignment 6 folder, you'll see there's final class projects. That's where I want you to put your project on the very last day that we meet of the term, because you're going to give presentations about your project. So you're going to put your project in here. There's a folder that's examples of past projects, and then there's just a Word document that spells out what this is. And so what we want you to do is we want you to develop something that would be useful for DataJam teams. DataJam teams are at the high school level or the community college level, but before you kind of dream up something that you think would be useful, it's really good to look at what is already there, because we don't want you to replicate something that is there. So let me see if I can go back. Well, for whatever reason, this. Okay. Let me just go here. Okay, so we're going to look at examples of past projects together. So many of the guides, and the guides are pretty much in 2 places. We have guides that are on the resources page, and we also have a huge number of guides that are on the data sets page. So I put examples of both kinds of guides in here. And I'm just going to open these and we're going to take a look. So this is a guide that was an end of the term project. We always try to get you to think about how to make it interesting so it will really appeal to students. And this was writing a DataJam research question, and it was just a several page, I think it's a 3-page document. She says, choose your topic of interest, narrow your scope, and has some key ideas for how to do that. Then determine your variables and your context, structure your question, be open to change. And be open to change is an incredibly important part of coming up with a research question. You guys, a number of you have been guiding DataJam teams at the community college level. They tend to be a little better about coming up with a research question than high school teams, but not perfect. We had the board look at the proposals. I would say half the proposals were immediately accepted. It looked like a good research question with a clear hypothesis and a data set that was usable for answering that research question. But the other half, so I think that's 5 or 6 out of 11, did not look so good. They actually hadn't come up with a data set that allowed them to have data to analyze. Very frequently, they'd come up with a news article that talked about data analysis or talked about the issue, but wasn't actually the data set. And after we talk about end of the term projects, we're going to spend the rest of the class period this week talking about how your teams are doing and where they're having troubles and what you can do to help them out. But being open to change is incredibly important. And we often suggest that you advise your team to identify a couple of research questions, because when they get down to the point of trying to find data, the data isn't exactly what they're envisioning it would be in order to answer their question. They have to change their question or try to take on a different question or modify it to fit the kind of data they can get. So this was a very valuable guide. It was very clear cut. The third page of it gave examples of things you should not do with the big red X and things that you should do with a green check mark. It's colorful, it's easy to digest, it's something that students at any level won't be daunted. And when you're thinking about making resources for DataJam teams, this is really key. You don't want to overwhelm them. So I thought this was a very good example. We're going to look at the second one down, which is making a DataJam poster. I believe this is a resource that was made by a student in this class, or several of them, last year, so it's relatively new. We had very little about how to make a poster or how to put together a presentation. We had a DataJam project last year with this guide on putting together a poster and another guide on putting together a presentation. But this is probably an area that we could stand to have more resources for. Again, this is very digestible. So how do you get started? How do you choose sections for your poster? You want a title, an introduction that has your research question and your hypothesis. That's amazingly important because the judges are going to look to see, is the research question there and is the hypothesis articulated? So if they don't get advice to put those things on their poster, they're not going to do well in the judging process. Your methods, the results, the conclusions, and we ask that all posters include information on the challenges. And then content tips. What would work really well for showing data? So it suggests showing graphs. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Design tips. Again, trying to keep it very straightforward. Giving an example of a layout. So potentially numbering the sections. We had a whole class period where we went through posters and we talked about things that made them look digestible and easy to understand, things that were harder to understand. So having clear headings, having them numbered, having the layout be something people can easily come to grips with, and having visuals was a very good idea. And then directing them to the DataJam guidebook. We had a student last year, and I think, this was last year in Caldwell. We had two students work together, Anusha and Nisha, and I thought they did a beautiful job of talking about how to ensure research data quality. And so they were talking about the fact that if you're going to collect your data and put it into a spreadsheet and clean it, you need to plan properly. You need to collect the data and keep it correctly labeled and have a good storage system, you have to be consistent about how you're entering data. When you go to present your data, you need to cite where did you get the data from, document your data, and ask for feedback. And then they had some resources that they had used. So very straightforward, easy to digest again, a topic that we had no guides on whatsoever. We just assumed that students would get data, they'd work with their mentor, and they'd work on organizing it, cleaning it, but we didn't provide any guidance whatsoever. So very nice project. This is from several years ago, and I thought it is one of the most frequently looked at guides on the website. And I remember thinking, oh, this is ridiculous. Who gets stressed about their DataJam project? Well, it turns out all sorts of people get stressed because they're trying to meet deadlines and they're worried. And this basically just was one page, and it took you through the steps we've talked about in putting together a proposal, but kind of in mini version. But then there were links. Click here if you want to link to something else. All of these guides are available on the website, and the mentors who make them can then work with Lucas Troy, who runs our website, and have him link other things to your document so that it can really be useful. Here is another one. This is a student who actually had a summer fellowship, a DataJam mentor, Tony Roble, with a summer fellowship that he made a large manual on how to do a DataJam project that's available on the resources page. But very few people actually look at that. It's 44 pages. It's long, but almost everybody looks at this 3-page document. Again, goes over how do you explore topics, write a research question, and takes you through some examples of setting up data, analyzing data, and interpreting it. Hopefully you're getting the sense that the general gist of how to go about asking a research question and design a proposal is something that we have a number of guides. They're each different, but we probably don't need more guides on that. But it's well worth looking at these guides because the style and how the information is condensed will be very, very helpful. Another topic that we had last year, as we started to really include more diversity inclusion into this course and getting you to think about it, we had Andrew Lindros, a student in this class last year who's currently a DataJam mentor, write a guide on how to have inclusive language in your DataJam project. And so gave examples of inclusive language and not inclusive language, and to use first-person language so that everybody feels included. You're writing a poster about a population of people. You don't want to kind of other them. Issues that we talked about. Use racially inclusive language. And he has several examples of this. Gender inclusive language. And again, several examples of this. And then kind of a wrap up on that. Getting teams to actually think about these issues that we've actually started spending more time getting mentors to think about. So translating some of what we talk about in this class to things that you want your students to think about in their projects. Again, in that same theme, we have data science and diversity, a guide made a couple of years ago, and looks at diverse populations, having empathy for those populations, applying an empathic approach, and then putting it all together, and then some further reading in the Do No Harm guide that you have access to was cited, and we were able to link it to this. So those are examples of general guides that are available on the resources page. I think as you are working on your DataJam projects for the next couple of weeks, now is the time to go look at the resources page and see if the issues you're having and the things you're struggling with and thinking about, if we have any guides to those issues. If we don't, producing a guide on that topic would be a really good idea. You need to get your idea for a guide approved by me before you start working on it. The way to do that is to email me and tell me what you're thinking about. We, in the next few weeks, after you present your second DataJam project, we will spend an evening with everybody presenting what they're doing their final project on, so that you get some feedback from people. But as soon as you have an idea, email me, because if it's something that we already have a guide for and you just missed it, I'll be able to tell you about that. Otherwise, I tend to be extremely positive about anything that you want to do that would offer a new resource to DataJam teams. Right off the top of my head, we've been talking this year, and we talked a lot last week when Beth Bauer used ChatGPT to help out two mentors in New Jersey, Dia and Jessica, with a question of how they could find some data sets to use, because they were trying to give advice to their community college team. And she was able to very quickly use ChatGPT. We don't have any guides on anything with using tools like ChatGPT, and I think that would be very valuable. So if that's an area you're interested in, I can say it's wide open right now. Other types of guides we have are below here. They're generally termed asking questions about. These are guides that are on the data sets page. And so if you scroll to the data sets page, you're going to see that we have guides on financial issues, guides on biomedical research topics, guides on climate change, guides on kind of societal issues. And I just thought I'd show you a couple of these. The guides have been generally made in a program like PowerPoint, but we save them as PDFs so that they're very easy for people that are on the website to open. But you'll notice that they are kind of page by page, and they're laid out as you would lay out a PowerPoint presentation. So I'll start with one on asking questions about gun violence. And again, we really try to make this appealing to students. So there's pictures, there's some writing on these, but we try to keep the writing more minimal. So you'll see that there's graphics on these pages. There's a big title, What is Gun Violence? There's some bullet points for what gun violence is. And to show you that it's relevant, there's a graphic here that compares number of gun deaths to number of car crashes. this takes everybody by surprise. They think gun violence is a very small percentage of deaths compared to things like car crashes, and it isn't at all. Well, somehow I just escaped to something else. Okay. Gun violence in U.S. schools, and then each guide has a little bit of background information. Then it has some example research questions, because these guides are produced to help everybody participating in DataJam come up with their own research questions. But what you find is that very frequently students, and in particular high school students, have trouble articulating a research question that is answerable using data analysis. So here's one example question. Have school shootings in the US in 2023 occurred more frequently in certain states? And so there's a red arrow here, and every time there's a red arrow in this guide, it points you to a data set. And this is K through 12 school shooting database. And if you click on that, you get right to the database. And that's what I'm saying, is that you can put together your guide and then work with Lucas so that it links, and when that gets clicked on, it goes right to that data set. And then there are instructions on what columns of data to use in that data set. And there's a graphic that kind of clearly tells you that there are more gun shootings in certain parts of the country, fewer gun shootings in other parts of the country. There are other examples. We try to encourage students who are making data set guides to have at least 3 example research questions. So another example research question is, how have trends in gun usage in intimate partner violence situations changed over the last 10 years? So again, there's a red arrow here to a link to a data set. You know that you're going to look over a 10-year period of time and see what the change is in these. And there's written instructions in what columns of data to use. I'm going to go to another data set guide just to give you some breadth, but you can look at these. We probably have at least 20 data set guides up on the data sets page now, but that only covers a small, possible set of topics. If there's a topic you're interested in, make a data set guide on it. It will be valuable for huge numbers of teams. This is asking questions about food insecurity. So again, a little bit of background information on what food insecurity is and what are the different types of food insecurity, what are food deserts. And then there are links to 3 specific databases. And then there are example research questions. So in 2022, was food insecurity experienced more in rural versus urban areas of the US? And there's again an arrow to the data set, and then there's instructions on how to use it. And it goes on to give others. And the last example I stuck in here was asking questions about air pollution. We've had a lot of teams ask questions about air pollution, and we've had teams in California ask questions about air pollution due to fires, something very specific to California that's a real problem. We've had teams in New Jersey ask questions about air pollution that is specific to the industry that's in New Jersey, chemical industry. And we've had a number of teams in Pennsylvania who've been worried about coal and coal mining both in Pennsylvania and in a neighboring state, West Virginia, and looking at airflow trends and what is air pollution like. So this is a topic that high school students, I can tell you, have been thinking about. And since the DataJam started, we've had quite a few projects on air pollution. Again, it has some background information of air pollution with some really nice graphics to draw their attention. You don't want to have things that are just overwhelmingly text. And then some data sets, and again, example research questions. I put these together, but there are a lot more guides on the website. I just wanted to give you guys some ideas so you didn't feel like, I'm gonna have to go look at the website. How am I going to find these? You can look right here to get ideas. Any questions about how to go about starting to think about your end of the term project? Again, brainstorm, pick something that's exciting to you. It'll be a lot more fun. You'll produce a much nicer end product if it's something you really want to do. And do it together. It should be fun, not a big burden. Any questions?
Got one.
Somebody, do you have one?
Yeah, so for the projects, like how thorough do we have to be? Because I'm assuming that for looking at some of these projects, like they're not exactly being made by people who are subject matter experts in these areas.
Right. I think they are the type you want to make, you're making them for high school and community college teams. You want to think about, if you're talking about a data set guide, which is different than a guide to kind of more generally, how do you do other parts of your DataJam project? The data set guides are made, you have to know something about the topic. You may not be the world's expert in that topic, but think about questions that could be asked by high school and community college students. You are all qualified to ask those kinds of questions. You need to write it about a topic that you feel you know something about, because you need to find data sets and think about how would you structure a research question in that area that would be answerable by doing data analysis. I think as you are discovering yourselves, and we talked about when you presented your first DataJam project, what you often do is you go look at the guides you can find on that topic and see what kind of data is there. And that helps you structure research questions that are answerable with the data that you can find. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so when you think you have an idea, just shoot me an email. I will look and I'll respond right away. I really like this part of the class, and I like seeing the directions that you're going with new ideas and things that we can make available to participants on the DataJam. We're going to turn our attention now to, let me get off of here, maybe. Okay. No, it's not letting me. Hang on just a minute. I'm going to unplug this. And I'm going to come back here. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again. Let me just. Okay, I am now on the Slack site for the fall DataJam. And we have teams that you all have been working with, and all of them got feedback on their proposals. What I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time talking about how are you doing with your team? Where is your team at? And maybe we can start with the Jamestown team. 1A is being mentored by Zach Lindquist, who's not in this course, but he was a mentor from a couple of years ago, by Ayush. You have team 2A. Where is your team at?
So they were having a little bit of trouble finding data for.
So tell them what the topic is.
Right. So my team is doing an analysis on the amount of high school men that can make it into men's Division I soccer.
Right. So go from high school
Right.
to Division I soccer.
So they wanted to look at the percentage of like men applicants versus the ones that actually got recruited by schools. And then this week they said that they found some data on the success of a player and how that factors in.
So I think they had linked to an article about this, right, in their proposal.
Yeah.
That they had not
They
had
didn't do the
data
actual-
that was analyzable,
So
right?
I do have to meet up with them. I've been reaching out to them, but they've kind of been MIA. So I'm really hoping to meet with them tomorrow
Okay,
just to clear up some things. But today they asked, or yesterday they asked about trying to find data from like the high schools or from the states. So they're only analyzing, I think, 5 states out of the 50.
okay, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can, you
Which
know,
is
there's
really
no
good.
problem.
And they're-
I mean, the good thing about sports is sports teams keep oodles of data.
Exactly.
I mean, it's, so I kind of took all the board comments and I wrote the comments back.
Right.
Because the board members don't want to do that. They just
Yeah.
come up with ideas and send bullet points. But what I said was, you know, I have no doubt you can find the
Right.
data, but you have to find it. We want to see that you have
Yeah,
data
exactly.
to answer.
I
the
do have
question.
to meet up with them because I think there was some miscommunication on that part. But as for like the reason why they chose the states, they have a basis for that, which I think is really good. And then on top of that, going into their analysis, I think that what was it that I was gonna say? It's slipping my mind.
My guess is that they can find it at the college level.
Yeah,
Colleges will keep track of who they recruit and who comes and how they do. I don't know if high schools are as good at keeping track. But I, of course, have been totally won over by Beth Bauer, and I would use ChatGPT to look into
No,
this.
right. I think for the actual stats for the player, so when you look at goals and assists and times on the pitch or times on the field, they're definitely going to extract that data from NCAA.
Good.
From their stats
Yeah.
themselves. And I told them that NCAA has a bunch of stats and a bunch of data sets on their website that are accessible. I just I do have to communicate with them about actually extrapolating those data sets from the
And
line.
extracting the correct
Extracting the
columns,
correct- and
because
also cl-
I think the
Yeah.
thing with sports, and we've had a number of teams, DataJam teams over the years do sports related questions, of course. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of kids that are really interested, but the data is overwhelming. I mean,
Right.
all of these, it doesn't matter, what it is. It can be soccer, it can be baseball, it can be football, whatever it is. I mean, it's just a deluge of data. And so getting them to figure out exactly which data they want
Yeah,
becomes.
so I'm really hoping to meet with them tomorrow because I think they're on a really good pace right now. But there are definitely some things I want to talk about with them that I haven't been able to yet.
Okay.
Especially about scrubbing the data from these sites, and also like taking a really good look at it and cleaning it and sort of filling in any missing holds or putting together something that might have been like incorrect. So I'm really hoping to be able to meet with them tomorrow.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
It sounds like you are aware of what they need to do.
Yeah, and also
that's
they're
good.
also I think they're also doing a really good job keeping on top of it, the three of them.
Okay.
They're all three of them are also soccer players.
Right,
Which-
right.
Really cool. So when they told me that, I was like, that's awesome because this is something
Because they
that's-
have a vested
Yeah,
interest,
they're-
and they'll do a better job with it because it means something to them. That's great. I should have, Team 1B didn't, we may not have a Team 1B. 2B is Hirzu in New Jersey. How's your team doing?
So I think my team was having a little bit problem with the data sets, but I think they told me that they were able to find a data set and they also categorized it on the basis of, let's say, gender and also like how many students identify at what
Can,
race, also
can
how
you
many.
tell can you start by saying what the research question is?
Okay, so they're trying to figure out how many graduates are there from high school in New York area, in rural areas versus the city areas.
Right.
So they were able to get a data set and they were able to segregate the data set on the basis of gender as well as race. And they also have data sets segregated on the basis of how many students have parents in armed forces and like how many cases of homelessness are registered. So they're trying to segregate it into different sectors so they can identify the graduation rate among each of those sectors. And I also did suggest them trying to do regression analysis so that they can use other factors also like resources available in the
And look
town.
how related they are. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so they could do like so many other variables to see if those also have kind of like a strong impact on the graduation rate or if there's like one particular factor that influences the rate the most. So we have been communicating, especially through email. I let them know that if they don't have time to meet, also if they have some small questions that I could like answer immediately, they can shoot me a text whenever they want, or they can like email me whenever they want. So we've been staying on touch like that.
Wonderful. That sounds great. How about 3A? Sarah.
Yeah, I'm with Anna. I don't know if she's still on, if she's on here, like the Slack yet.
Well, she should be. I mean, we can look up here. The way to do it is to look up here and, well, hard to know. I don't see her. So she was invited. I think AMH 382 is her.
Okay. But I've had a really hard time like reaching out to them. Like I haven't met with them since October 10th.
Oh dear.
So I really don't know where they're at. I mean, I read over like their
So
proposal.
you could you're connected by email to the teacher, and I copied the teacher on every communication. I copied the mentor and the teacher on all the communications back to the teams, because we do have several teams that are not really communicating. We have other teams that are communicating like crazy, but some aren't. And you could reach out to the teacher and say, I'm a little concerned. I haven't heard from them since here. are they going forward with this? Can I help in any way? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I realized that I've only talked to the teacher like twice through the Slack. Like she's the only one that's ever answered me, and I like have been like putting stuff in like every week, like, hey, like, if you guys want to meet, like, you can arrange a time, but no one has gotten back to me.
Yeah, I would talk directly to the teacher because at this point, they need to work hard over the next 4 weeks in order to be able to turn this in. And I think it's important that the teacher knows that you're not getting any responses back. I don't know what'll happen. I mean, we've had, in the spring, we ran our first pilot project with community colleges. We had 6 teams. All 6 teams were pretty interactive, but it was also a pilot and we were paying lots and lots of attention. So it's a learning process and I don't know what will happen, but I think letting the teacher know that you're not getting communication back is a good idea.
Yeah, it's just hard because like I know they're also college students and like
Right.
same age as me, and so like I don't want to be like overbearing or anything like
Yeah,
that.
but at this point, they need to work on it or they won't have a finished product. And you don't want the teacher to be saying, well, I didn't even know about this. So I wouldn't go that route too often, but I would do it now.
Okay.
Okay. And that's why we spend some time talking about it. I mean, I think mentoring is something that you don't know how it's going to go, and you don't know. It's very helpful to hear what is working well and what isn't working well. Who has Team 3B?
Oh, I do.
Okay, good.
So our research question was housing in rural areas and how that affects demand and supply.
Oh, right, that's right. And we suggested that you look at an economic guide that actually is on the data sets page, because it just might help them think about this issue.
Right, yeah. So overall, I think the progress should be going pretty well. I'll definitely check up with them tomorrow, but I think they're on track right now.
Yeah, and they had data sets and they were in good shape for
Oh, yeah,
this.
WPRDC, yeah.
Yeah, and they were doing Allegheny County, and we said, great choice of data sets and using Western Pennsylvania Data Resource Center. Very nice. How about 4A, Balsacar?
Yeah, so their project was basically comparing like turf fields and real grass fields on like injury rates for
Oh,
the
right.
NFL athletes.
Right.
So I did see the feedback. It was a little weird because I'm pretty sure they must have submitted like the not updated version of the doc, because the last meeting that I had with them, we found a very good data set, and then the feedback was like insinuating that they hadn't found a data set. So I just have a feeling that somebody submitted the doc.
Something.
Yeah, just like not the updated document, because we do actually have a good data set.
Okay.
And they told me that they are working on, I forget which statistical software they were talking about. It was like Stata or something, but they said that
Okay.
they sort of they're forming a plan now on how they're going to analyze that data. They didn't want to meet last week, so I asked them on Monday if they want to meet. They haven't answered yet, so we'll see.
Okay, but I think as long as they have a data
Yeah,
set,
they
I mean,
have it.
I think what the board of directors worries about is, they want to make sure students have everything in hand that they can proceed forward. So I think what they submitted was some articles
That's
that,
what they did originally, right? And then I
Yeah.
told them like, we got actually.
yeah, and that was what actually got turned in.
Yeah, that's what I
And
figured.
so there wasn't data sets
Right.
there, because I actually double check and look over everything, just to make sure that we're correctly sending feedback out. Okay, 4B, Dia
Yes,
and Jessica.
we are having a hard time talking, like getting a hold of them. The first meeting we had, the first talk we had, we did provide them with data, like a lot of data sources from the DataJam website, and they were able to submit the proposal, but I did check the recommendations, and I guess like they don't have the exact data set yet. But I did email them again to see if they wanted any help with their projects, but they didn't respond to that either. So I guess we're gonna just email the professor directly to see if we could get a hold of the students. But as
Yeah,
far
or just to
yeah.
inquire, just to say, we're not getting responses back, and we just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Mhm.
We would be happy to help them. I think you want to take a very polite, and we want to be helpful strategy, not accusatory, just we're not getting a hold of them, and we don't want them to go much longer without being able to progress. And perhaps they're working on it on their own, but if they need our help, so that's kind of the tone I think would go over well.
Or we will email her about it.
Okay, that sounds
Do
good.
you think you could create maybe a new group chat with us? With
I could do what?
if you could create a new group chat because we don't have access to the group chat anymore, like Tia said.
I'm sorry, I'm not
Um,
hearing that word.
Group chat.
Oh, a
so
group
we are
chat.
getting yeah, it says the trial has ended. So we thought like, do we need like a subscription to it, or can we
Oh,
like
I
make
think you
another?
can ignore that. It moved you into just the regular, if,
Okay.
are you not connected?
No, we are
Can you
not
get
able
on site?
to. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're not able to send any text in that group chat at all.
Okay, I will try to um, re-enter you, and I'll do that tonight. If it doesn't work, let me know, because I I think I should be able to get you connected. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, great. And that was 4B. How about 5A, Jake?
Um, so I'm hopefully meeting with my group. Oh, project idea. My group is doing, they want to see whether or not COVID-19 had significant effects. They're mostly looking for negative effects on attendance for national parks.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
And so we're definitely, I think they've decided they want to look specifically at New York. We actually talked about this before, and the some of the things.
Allegheny Forest or something,
And
right?
I remember we talked about it. You had mentioned that, oh, it would be a good idea for them to look at parks that are a little more isolated versus parks that might be close to
Closer to the
highways.
city, yeah.
And that I think that was also on the proposal.
Because the judges,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think right now they are in the like. I think I need to give them some help on how to actually like scrape the data, and how to actually get it in a format that they were working with. I think they're going to be using Minitab for their
Okay.
which is I'm lucky enough. I had to use Minitab last semester, so
Some of the classes do use
Yeah.
Minitab, and one of the professor that we had helping us with this course a few years ago, Brian Nelson, really loved Minitab. So,
So I'll have to refresh myself a little bit on just like manipulate, like just making sure that they can read the things that they're taking off of the website.
right.
But I think they're on a pretty.
They had a data set, they had a cohesive plan.
I told
I
them-
think
yeah,
the board
yeah.
just suggested, rather than just looking at that one place, because they
Yeah.
were focused only on one national park, and it seemed like they could ask a little bit broader of a question,
Last
and
time-
board members suggested some other.
They might have just forgotten to edit that on the proposal. Last time
Yeah.
we talked, I did bring up like, oh, it would be good to look at. But I think the last time we met, there were only two of the five there.
I mean, that happens.
There's two group members that I haven't met yet.
Okay.
I just figured that might just happen.
That does happen. Yeah. Okay, we have 5B, Amasha.
So I think I have the same problem as Oscar, where it's like they submitted the wrong document, so we
Oh.
got the wrong the unupdated version graded or reviewed.
Okay.
But basically, our problem that we wanted to look into was like looking into the relationship between pollution levels of nitric oxide, ozone, and sulfuric oxide,
Oh, nice.
and
Nice.
population density in the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Oh, right. And they were going to look at population density. The board, of course, thought all sorts of other things could be influencing pollution levels, like what industry was nearby, and freeways, I think it was the other one.
So that's actually what we did today, was looking for additional factors to look at. We kind of had a hard time looking for industries, like as to like maybe counts of how many industries exist, like maybe within each of the 5 boroughs. So instead we did tree density.
Oh,
Because
nice.
we're thinking like, oh, if there's more trees, then theoretically there should be less pollution because trees help fix that.
Yeah, they helped, yeah.
So that's what we did today, and then we just like worked more with Excel, and I just
Okay.
helped them move the data into Excel and then kind of organize it the way that we need to have it done to do like our analysis.
This sounds very positive. It sounds like you're,
It sounds positive, but I meet with only one girl every week, and she's sick of her members.
oh, well, at least you have one you're meeting with. And
That's
again, this is new for us. So, and Jamestown is a community college that was very excited about participating in DataJam, but of course they're new to it and we haven't worked with them before. So it is a learning experience.
I feel like the issue is that my the one who does show up actually complained to the teacher about her group mates never showing up, because I've never seen like 2 of the group mates,
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure the group is like fairly large, so I just like do not know them at all.
okay.
Her teacher was like, oh, just fill out a survey at the end of the term to like talk about your experience, but that doesn't really do anything for the present.
It doesn't do anything for the poor student. So it'll help the teacher, but not the student.
Yeah.
It's a learning experience. Absolutely. Okay. And we have Team 6B, and we have Sashwat in New Jersey.
Yes, so I think I have a different channel than you. Can you click on the direct messages, the first one? I have added you to the group.
Can I see what?
No. You can go. Yeah, the first, yes, that one, the first one.
This one?
Yeah, the group, yes.
Okay.
Because the previous group didn't work, so I created a new group.
Oh, okay. Okay, and this
Yeah.
is, yeah, okay, thank you.
So I've been talking to my group. I helped them with the proposal, but after that, I haven't heard anything back from them.
So can you tell everybody what they're working on?
So they're working on injuries in professional soccer, in
Right.
Major League Soccer. Yes. So I
And
think
so
that's their title.
that you haven't been able to see the progress they're making.
Yeah, so I received an email earlier this week, but I tried to talk to them, but they haven't replied anything back. So
Okay. So, the California team, I have El Camino College, and I will email tonight to let you know when they can meet. I'm looking for 1 or 2 of you to mentor them. They seem very organized, and their proposal got accepted. but they would really like a mentor to work with. And they're in Southern California, but it would be wonderful to have you guys mentor them. I have a number of high school teams who have now contacted me, and this week I will be reaching out to all of you about availability. I've started to get information back for when they can meet. And I'm going to be trying to match mentors to high school teams. Now, high school teams have a longer trajectory, so they will be working on their proposals. If they get their proposal done and turned in and approved, they can start working on data analysis anytime. But generally what happens is they get their proposals turned in at the earliest at the beginning of December. They can submit them all the way through January. But as soon as they submit them and it looks like they're good to go, they'll start working on data analysis. But their posters are not going to be due until the end of March. So the high school teams, it's a longer range plan. It's the community college teams that are kind of on a fast track because they do the whole DataJam over the course of the semester. But virtually all of you should be hearing from me about your availability for high school mentoring. I am really excited to say we have a number of teams from Ohio for the first time ever, and we've never had teams in Ohio, so that's very exciting. I think there's something in chat here. Yes, I will try to take their mentors in San Francisco, a couple in Pittsburgh and New Jersey that don't have teams, and I will give you priority first if your availability meshes with the availability of the high school teams. But I'm very, very excited that we've got a number of new high school teams that we haven't had before, plus some returning teams, both in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania that want to get involved. As I said at the beginning of this class period, I was just in Michigan yesterday at the Academic Data Science Alliance meeting. We gave a DataJam symposium. Luella was there online from San Francisco. It went incredibly well. And I think we have teams from all over the U.S. that are going to be joining us. So there were some California students even at this meeting. I talked to a high school student from California that was interested in putting together a team. So I think we will have plenty of teams. Everybody will be able to have teams to mentor. I don't think you need to worry about that. I think that's it for tonight. If you start thinking about end of the term projects, email me. I would love to hear from you. Okay, see you next week.
Thank
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.